Hey, welcome to Select Arcane. I meant to have this video up before NamoPaymo, so sorry about that. This is a topic I'm especially passionate about, primers. As a brand new artist, it can be extremely daunting to choose a primer because there are just so many to go with, and each has their own strengths and weaknesses. When you walk down that aisle, it can be very daunting. So in this video, we're going to be putting some of the top primers to the test, and to see who comes out on top. The candidates to be tested are some of the hobby's biggest hitters. You see their names mentioned a lot on the NamoPaymo Facebook page, as well as the customizing pages. So let's do the introduction. Competing today for the Grand Championship will be Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch 2-Time Ultra Cover, Krylon Fusion, Tamiya Fine Surface Primer, Duplicolor Sandable Primer, Citadel Color, Army Painter Color Primer, and Golden Gesso. This video is out so late because some of these were extremely hard to source and I had to order them in from overseas. So that everyone's competing on equal ground, we'll be using this Breyer Classic Haflinger mare, and I'm doing this on the same day so that the humidity and temp are the same. Firstly, this mare needs a scrub down with anti-grease dish soap, and she has to be thoroughly dry. While the pony's in the sink, let's talk about some of the key factors about choosing primer and the conditions of the day. Firstly, it's exactly freezing, but the wind chill's making it feel like -13 Celsius. It's snowing and the humidity is at 80%. And most people would think that this is the worst day to prime a horse, but we're going to debunk that with the right primer. There are 3 things that can ruin your pony, and these same 3 things go for sealants as well: temperature, humidity, and a chemical reaction. Not all primers can handle these types of conditions, as well as not be able to handle certain types of paints that you may want to use. So let's get right into it. All of the primers will be judged using a scorecard. Each will be ranked out of 10 for dry time, is it dry within 15 minutes, the details left behind after the primer, the texture of the primer and is it suitable for something finicky like pastels, the smell of the primer because sometimes some are too volatile to even work with, and ease of use. Is it easy to work with or did it glob all over the place? That's all tallied up to the final score, and then the winner gets presented below. Starting off with Rust-Oleum's Painter's Touch. This primer is readily available, relatively affordable, comes in a very generous can, and it's quite accessible, being found at automotive stores or craft stores. And it's the gateway primer for a lot of model horse artists, myself included. To give all primers a fair chance, I'm wearing rubber gloves, and I mask off part of the horse with a plastic bag. I've always found this primer quite tricky to use. It usually comes out in big blobs. It's runny, it's patchy, it doesn't give that much coverage, or gives too much coverage and covers some key details, and I always find it dries very gummy and never fully dries. But I've set a 15-minute alarm, and we'll check back shortly. Don't mind all that smudging, that was user error on my part. I really did my best to do light, even strokes, but as you can see, I got a little heavy in some areas. The primer is definitely dry after 15 minutes, but so many details have been lost. Look at that tail, all those nice grooves where the tail hairs kind of meet each other are filled in by primer. And there's a type of pocking texture across the bum, which usually means that the primer is reacting to the humidity levels outside. After using this product for many years, I can confidently say that this primer is not suitable for these types of conditions, but saying that, I do know it works very well in a desert climate because I have many resins primed with this primer from artists out west. So here's the final score. I'm giving dry time a 10 perfect score because it was really dry within 15 minutes. I'm giving details a 4 because we did lose a lot in the tail. I gave texture a 1 because if you wanted to use pastels on this pony, you simply could not. I gave smell a 4 because it really wasn't that bad to spray. I gave ease of use a 2 because even I had a lot of trouble priming this horse. And that brings us to a final score of 21. Alright Krylon, you're up next. So Krylon brand is another gateway primer. Again, easily accessible, relatively affordable, etc. But one issue I have is that they have changed their formula 500 million times. I've never even seen this fusion all-in-one before. They discontinued every other Krylon that I've ever used, so let's see how this goes. Also, just to note, this is a paint and primer in one. It is very much not recommended to use this type of primer on model horses because it can be chemically reactive. My first spray out of the can was disastrous. I was getting too much and too little all at once, and I tried to go in and fix my mistakes, and it just kept getting worse from there. And even after I set her down to dry, you can already see the disaster unfolding, but let's give her the 15 minutes, and we'll see. When time was up, I walked back in, and oh, the smell. Oh, it was unbearable. And when looking at the pony, it really wasn't any better. This deep honeycomb texture is definitely a reaction to the humidity. We lost so much detail in the feathers. But something that I found really surprising is that Krylon is a very warm white as opposed to the Rust-Oleum's cold white. They're different colors. So yeah, I don't know why people still use Krylon. I've been preaching about this for years, but here's the scorecard. Dry time was another perfect score because it was dry within 15 minutes. Details I gave a 5 because actually it preserved a little bit more detail than the Rust-Oleum, but not by much. For texture, I actually had to give it a 1, which is the worst score, but I had to bump up Rust-Oleum because that's how bad the Krylon was. The smell obviously received the worst score because I could not contain myself. Anyone with sensitivity to smell would not be able to use this product at all. For ease of use, I gave another 2 because it was very similar to the Rust-Oleum, and that brings us to a total of 19, and Rust-Oleum bumped up to 23. Come on, Tamiya, let's restore our faith in primers. Tamiya has the smallest can, and it's one of the more expensive products we're using today, which gives you very little bang for your buck. Saying this, it's a very popular product for Gundams, or other build-your-own kits like planes or tanks. It's quite accessible globally, and it's pretty much your only primer option in Asia. Now please note, on the back, it literally says that these conditions are not proper for this type of primer, so that means it's the perfect time to try it. I've used this primer before in these conditions, and I've had great success. It stopped snowing, but the wind really picked up, so poor Tamiya has to battle the elements even more. It took some time, but Tamiya sprayed relatively evenly all over the pony, even though it was so windy, and it created like a fine mist over the pony. This is a really good texture for things like micros because you're not losing any detail.
I like the smell of this one.
You like the smell of this one? Truthfully, before I even set her down, she was completely dry, so 10 out of 10 perfect score on dry time. That smudge on her side was from a previous primer, so ignore that. But as you can see, the coverage was not fabulous, but with Tamiya you really do need 2 or 3 coats. But the key thing is that it was even. And I know what you're gonna say, well, you sprayed it on her barrel, you can't see it on her fetlocks, etc. But don't worry, here's a micro I did a few years ago, primed with Tamiya, and as you can see, the detail held up pretty well. So, what's the score? 10 out of 10, perfect dry. Details I'd put an 8. I'm not convinced I could use pastels on this, but every other paint I think so. The texture I waffled about because you need multiple sprays, but I ended up on 7.5. It's my scorecard, I can do whatever I want. The smell I gave a 7, taking Eric's preference into account. He's very anti-perfume, so I value his opinion on this. Ease of use I gave an 8 because it's a very good spray. It's very even, easy to use. And that brings us to a total of 40.5, which is way better than the other two. Now, my personal favorite, Duplicolor Sandable Primer. I've preached about this primer, I have told people to get this primer, and I'm going to show you why. This is an automotive primer, so it's quite durable, but it's not as accessible. Firstly, it's about double the price of Rust-Oleum or Krylon. You can only find it in automotive stores or online, and outside of North America, I have heard you cannot get it at all. But it comes in a bunch of different colors like white, gray, brown, black, etc. And you know what, let me just show you why I love it. The formula is very smooth, it comes out like a mist and coats the pony, and no matter how windy it is, everything's very even. Similar to Tamiya, it's dry well within 15 minutes. And look at that, beautifully even. Sure, you could go with a second coat, but it's smooth, it covers well, and yes, I have used pastel with it before. I'm not just being biased, I really do think this primer is one of the best. Duplicolor's score is reflected by how amazing it is. Great dry time, all details left intact. Texture I'll just give a 9. The smell is eerily similar to Tamiya. It's exceptionally easy to use and very hard to overdo it. And that brings us to a total of 45. If you don't believe me, just remember I do all of my micros in this primer. Come on, Duplicolor, sponsor me on this video. Or at least send me some merch. Now the question is, can Duplicolor be dethroned? Next up we have Citadel Color. I've never used this before, and this is one of the new primers that everyone's talking about. And I did have to triple check that this really is a primer and not just paint, but apparently it is. This is made specifically for Warhammer figures. Very tiny, fine detail work. And the same material as Gundam's, so I have high hopes. The instructions on the can do make it very clear that the conditions for today are definitely not ideal, but we're going to do it anyways. Now you're going to notice that this primer is gray, not white, and that's because I literally could not find white. This is one of the primers I had to order in from overseas, and it took 2 months to get here. Wow, 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 I'm impressed. Look at that coverage. Look how smooth. Now I don't know how it's going to react with paint, but just on a primer level, I'm thoroughly impressed. So here's the scorecard. Of course it was dry within 15 minutes, so perfect score. The details are just outstanding, outstanding, perfect score. Texture, perfect score. I would use pastels on this for sure. The smell was actually probably a bit less than Duplicolor, maybe negligible. I didn't really notice. And ease of use, I'm putting at a 9.5. It was very hard to ruin this, and I'm thoroughly impressed. The score ended up at 45.5, which is a half a point higher than the Duplicolor. Next up is Army Painter. This is another newer primer that has been recommended up and down and side to side. I personally know a lot of artists who love this primer. And this stuff is used for model planes, model tanks, etc. So I'm excited, but could it dethrone Citadel? I don't know. Now please note this very express warning about weather conditions. No snow, no rain. But we're doing it anyways! Mwahaha! So far so good. Goes on nice and smooth. Let's check back after 15. Well, it's definitely the brightest white out of all of them. The texture's reminiscent of Duplicolor. The coverage is great. Yeah, I can see why people like it. So here's the scorecard. Perfect drying time, of course, within 15 minutes. The details, nearly perfect, though I still prefer Duplicolor. The texture is very much like Duplicolor, like if Duplicolor got discontinued, this is a very good option. Smell isn't bad at all. Certainly doable. Ease of use is also a 9, and that brings our score to 44, which is 1 point below Duplicolor, and honestly, I think these are both interchangeable, and it's a really good primer. Alright, last but not least, Gesso. Gesso is the type of primer that you brush onto a canvas before painting. It was never intended for model horses, but the hobby adopted it. There's no real smell to it unless you stick your nose into it like I did. And it's a brush-on product. You can cut it with 50% water, but we didn't cut the other ones with water, so I'm just going to go at it. As you can see, the texture is much to be desired. It's scratchy and not the greatest. But the point with Gesso is that you put on a decently thick layer and then you sand it. Again, we're not sanding the other one, so I'm just going to leave it. It dries very quickly, definitely within 15 minutes, but the end result is patchy and sad, and to me, I don't really think it's worth my time. It would take me extra prep hours just to get the gesso smooth so that I can start painting. Golden Gesso's scorecard comes in with another perfect 10 for dry time. Detail sit at a 3 because it will never be as good as a spray-on primer. Texture, I'm obviously giving it a 1. I don't think I need to explain that. Smell, I'm giving it a 10 because it's virtually scentless. Ease of use, a 1. As a beginner artist, I think you'd be very frustrated. And that brings the total to 25. Notice how that's still higher than Rust-Oleum and Krylon. But that's because there's a time and place for gesso. If you're extremely sensitive to vapors, if you don't mind that extra prep work, and if you're working with a plasticky model like Schleich or Safari, gesso's actually not bad. So, we just finished a battle royale of 7 popular primers of the model horse hobby. It was a very long day for sure. But there can only be one winner, and that winner is Citadel. I did not see that coming, I don't know if you did. But saying this, we're basing this winner on a primer in of itself. We haven't painted it, we haven't sealed it, we haven't sanded it. And this video is really a primer for the next video. Ha ha ha. Because next time we're going to be talking about chemical reactivity and sealants. And we're going to be taking all of these primers and putting them up against different sealants and seeing if any of them react. Until next time, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram @SelectArcane or on Facebook by the same name. See you next time. Bye!